Project New World. By Ninja Mare. Prologue, begin the operation. Within the boundaries of a deep dark forest, near where the remains of an old castle now sits in ruin, something was disturbing the old woodlands. It was like a very deep, rumbling vibration was rattling the very air itself, while the ground trembled as if a stampede of buffaloes was roaming the forest. Then out of the ether, a large blue square-like thing just popped into existence. Its surface looks like it was made out of water, that has neon light set in its depths. The surface of the watery square then started to ripple, foaming bubbles starting to form as something emerges from the depths of the vertical wall of water. Emerging out the wall of water was some kind of machine. In appearance it looks like a tall four-limbed animal, something like a jungle cat in overall design, its body looking lean but covered in some bulky-looking armor plating. But the mechanical beast wasn't alone. Its body was being held by some large carrier unit, its hulking form rolling out of the wall of water with four well-armored bipedal beings flanking its sides, while another was operating the carrier unit. Once everyone had fully emerged from the pool, the four bips escorting the carrier began to patrol the area, weapons held in their hands ready to be used if something came up. This is Frontier Bravo 1, area is secure, Professor. No hostiles located. The soldier closest to the carrier unit said into his helmet's intercom, while the other three members of his squad kept an eye out, while the carrier unit operator waited for instructs. Copy that, Bravo 1, will begin initiating activation of the R.O.V.E.R unit. An older sounding male voice said on the other side of the intercom, followed by more people shuffling around. All right, everybody get ready. The soldier says to the other three. Once this thing is up and running, we're returning back to home base. Roger, the other three members said in unison as they stayed close to the carrier. The leader of the small squad remained on standby as he stood next to the hulking machine, head slowly turning as his eyes examined the area, noting the ruins that was behind the wall of water. The reason why the soldiers, and the machinery was here, on a different world, was for research and discovery. Ever since the human race has developed trans-dimensional travel, having only one machine capable of such a feat, humanity has spent the next 3 years searching for new worlds, either it was for colonization, scientific research, or whatever strikes humanity's particular fancy. But in order to do so, the humans needed something to explore the world. They do manage to find, that is where the reliable remote operated vehicle of environmental reconnaissance, or R.O.V.E.R for short, unit comes in. So Rick, what do you think old R.O.V.E.R here will find this time? A Latino man asked the leader as he was studying the structure. Not sure, Adam. Rick says as he readjusts the rifle in his hands as he gestures to the structure before them. But if this is of any indication, we might actually find other life forms. Adam turned his head to face the ruins, and just gave the collapsed structure a once-over, before looking back at Rick. Hopefully, whatever lived here isn't something we would have to fight. Not exactly thrilled of killing little green men. Both men chuckled at the thought of fighting tiny little aliens with ray guns. But in all seriousness, if there is life here, that's just as smart as us. What do you think will happen? Rick hummed as he tapped a finger against the side of his gun. I don't know, Adam. If there is intelligent life here, hopefully we can meet them as friends, and not enemies that turns into a war. The sound of the carrier unit moving snapped the two men out of their little chat, as the operator started to lower the mechanical beast as its body started to activate. Once the machine was lowered, its singular eye glowed bright blue for a second, before dulling out as its head started to survey its location. The mechanical animal released itself from the carrier's clamps, and began to check its operating systems, and its bodily features, while the carrier and the four soldiers left it alone as they headed back through the wall of water. Good luck, R.O.V.E.R, hopefully you turn something up really good this time. Rick said to the machine as he stepped through the portal, leaving the machine all by itself to begin its assigned mission. The R.O.V.E.R unit finished its internal and external checkup. All of its systems and functions were fully operational. Once the mechanical beast was fully operational, it made its way over to the ruins. As the mechanical animal walks up the small steps, its specialized padded feet trotting on the dusty stone surface, its singular camera lens's eye began scanning everything it sees, feeding both footage and pictures back to home base. This new world that the humans discovered a few months ago, was only the fourth world they managed to find, but it was the first to show any signs of having any form of inhabitants. Entering what looks like a large ceremony hall, the R.O.V.E.R unit's eye focused on large tapestry, that looked to be in surprisingly good condition. Upon closer examination, the tapestry seems to be depicting something that looks like a white-winged unicorn, standing on top of what could be the sun. As to what it means, that's up for the researchers back on Earth to theorize. The R.O.V.E.R unit then used its long prehensile tail to reach up to the tapestry, increasing its length by stretching it out, while the tip has 3 thin foot-long cable-like digits extended out, and plucked a single strand from the tapestry, where it was stored on one of the 2 capsules on its hind legs. After taking a sample, the mechanical animal continued its exploration of the ruins, scouring every nook and cranny it could travel to, and reach, and continuing to store 1 or 2 samples in the capsule storage units. And after an hour or so into its search, the machine came across, quite possibly, the most significant sighting it could possibly come across. A large library that looked to be in rather good condition. Walking into the library, the R.O.V.E.R used its tail to carefully grab one book after another, and used its tail's fingers to turn the pages, allowing it to take photos of each one and sending them to researchers, who were practically foaming at the mouth, wishing they could be authorized to venture to this world, and study the tomes personally. But unfortunately, they would have to wait for a minimum of 2 months, after the R.O.V.E.R unit has studied a good amount of the world, before the higher-ups allowed for personnel to travel to the world and do further on-site study. 3 hours later, after roaming the ruins, and finding more and more evidence of a past civilization, the R.O.V.E.R unit emerges from the decrepit structure, where a small blue circle formed in the air. The machine then grabbed its 2 storage capsules with its tail and slipped them through the hole, where people in hazmat suits took them to a quarantined area for study, while a new pair of storage capsules were given to the machine. Once the mechanical animal has its new units, it made its way over to the unstable-looking bridge that seems to be the only way over the steep ravine. Stepping away from the rickety bridge, the R.O.V.E.R looked for another way to cross the ravine, and after a little searching, the mechanical beast found a tall and robust fallen tree. Reaching the end of the makeshift bridge, the mechanical beast made its way into the forest and began its worldwide exploration for the next 2 months. Today was just a lovely day in Ponyville. The weather was perfectly monitored, no stray clouds, or any unexpected weather activities. Birds were creating a beautiful ballad, and ponies were going about their day, whether it was work-related or just simply enjoying their day. And for one particular group of Marrays, they were all trying to wind down from quite the adventure they just had in the north, as it was quite the harrowing and yet thrilling escapade. Twilight Sparkle was reading a book on magical applications of color theory, in the upper floors of the Golden Oaks Library, with a nice cup of tea and a plate of cookies beside her. Today's been a rather peaceful one, especially after the whole incident in the Crystal Empire. That was certainly a grueling task. Not as bad as dealing with Discord, but so far, it comes as a very close second. As the unicorn was reading her book, the pitter-patter of feet on wood caught her attention, and when she turned away from her book she saw her assistant Spike coming towards her. A scroll in claw. "What's going on, Spike?" the unicorn asked as the baby dragon slid to a stop, ending just a foot from his caretaker. "I just got a message from the princess, I haven't read it yet," Spike said as he offered the scroll to Twilight, who took it in her magical aura and began to read it. "Dear Twilight, I'm sorry for disturbing your afternoon, after the incident you and your friends had in the Crystal Empire not just yesterday. Now before I ramble on, I'm writing to you because I felt something, I don't know what it is. But I do know it's something unusual. So far, I only know that the disturbance came from the Everfree Forest, near or around both mine and Luna's old castle. I'll be looking into this matter, but if you discover anything unusual, please write back to me. However, I urge you not to go looking into this matter, until I know what it is. Hope to see you again, my student. Your mentor, and friend Celestia. So, what does it say? Spike questioned. It sounds like something bad might be a hoof. Twilight says as she rolls the scroll up. But she wants us to stay out of this until she figures out what this unknown danger is. Should we tell the others? Twilight tapped her chin for a moment before speaking up. No, let's keep this between us. We don't need any pony, especially Rainbow, who I bet would go off to look for Thread herself and try to fight it. Spike nodded his head in agreement. With that, Spike left his caretaker, and headed back downstairs, where the mayor soon saw him wander off into the distance. Twilight tried to go back to reading her book, but Celestia's message continues to reread in her head, and the unicorn couldn't help but wonder what this unknown danger the princess is unsure of is. Closing her book and walking to the library's balcony, the unicorn looked in the general direction of where the forest was, and even though the princess told her to not get involved until she knows for certain what this threat is, the unicorn's own genuine curiosity got the better of her. Probably against her better judgment, and against Celestia's warning, the unicorn prepped her saddlebags and readies to set off. As she does so, she continuously thinks to herself, if I find whatever is bothering the princess, maybe I can help her. The princess might be miffed with her decision, but, if Twilight does this right, the princess might praise her and show the princess everything she's learned up to this point. Once her saddlebags were prepared, the unicorn focused her magic and teleported all the way from the library to the entrance of the forest. Okay, let's see what's going on in there, Twilight mutters to herself, before she trots into the forest. Not sure what she might find, but is prepared to face it head on.